All right, this is Judge Ahart. Welcome to the video conferencing platform, Zoom Municipal Court Hearings. This is going to take about 10 to 15 minutes. This is an opening statement for those of you not represented by counsel and for those of you here for a first appearance. So it'll be about 10 to 15 minutes, and once I'm done, I will call the list and we will proceed with court. If you are a witness, has limited ability to understand or communicate with me proficiently in English, or needs an accommodation under the Americans with Disability Act, let me or any member of the court staff know, and we will arrange for a court interpreter or an Americans with Disabilities Act accommodation for you at no cost. If necessary, we will reschedule your matter so you can have an interpreter or accommodation that you need. Although these proceedings are being conducted virtually, they are actual court proceedings. Therefore, you should conduct yourself as though you are in the courtroom. There is to be no eating, no drinking, no driving, no sleeping, and no smoking. Everyone should be in an upright position, free of background noise, and proper attire. No one else should be speaking in the room with you unless it is your attorney. You should be sitting in an area with adequate lighting, and your camera should be placed at face level so that you can clearly be seen by the court. During these proceedings, you should not be distracted and should be able to meaningfully participate in your hearing. As I mentioned before, these proceedings are being conducted virtually. Therefore, I am assuming that because you are on the virtual platform here, you are consenting to having your matter heard virtually. If you do not consent to having your matter heard virtually, please let me know once your case is called. The general order in which cases will be taken this morning or this afternoon would be attorneys first, then pro se's and uncontested matters, and then contested matters. If you need to speak to the prosecutor, we will send you back into a virtual courtroom or platform to speak with the prosecutor. All proceedings in this court are recorded, therefore you should be very careful of what you say on the record because it may be held against you. The parties, counsel, and all participants on the video conferencing platform shall not record or permit any other person to record any portion of the proceedings by any means, including but not limited to audio, video, and screenshots. Without the prior written approval of the court, the party shall communicate this direction to all additional or interested persons or entities of the case. Under no circumstances should anyone unmute your microphone unless your case is called by the judge, by me, or a court staff member. Once your case is called, you may then unmute your microphone. At this time, your device has the capability to start your video. That's the time to start your video. Cell phones and any other devices which have the potential to interrupt the court session should be turned off unless you are using the device to participate in the hearing. You have the right to be informed of your charges and the penalties you face for those charges. You have the right to a reasonable postponement for good cause, such as consulting with an attorney and preparing a defense. You have the right to be represented by an attorney, and if you elect not to be represented by an attorney for any charges which may result in a jail term, loss of your driving privileges, or penalties in excess of $800, I will ask you questions to satisfy myself that you are giving up the right to be represented by an attorney knowingly and intelligently. You have the right to a court-appointed attorney if you cannot afford to hire your own attorney, and if you face a jail term, loss of driving privileges, or penalties in excess of $800, you may qualify financially. You must complete a form which will ask questions about your income and your assets, and you may be asked to supply proof of your income, assets, and expenses. If you apply for a court-appointed attorney, there is an application fee of $200, which the court can reduce or eliminate for good cause upon written explanation to the court. Everybody here has a constitutional right to remain silent. No one can force you to testify or make a statement on your own behalf or call any witnesses or to offer any defense. If you choose not to testify, it will not in any way factor into my decision as to whether you are guilty or not guilty of the offense charged. Everybody here is presumed innocent unless and until you are proven guilty. The prosecutor is the attorney who represents the state and presents the cases to the court. In most cases, the prosecutor must prove the case against you beyond a reasonable doubt. It is never your burden to obligation to prove your innocence. So today you may enter a plea of guilty or not guilty to the charges. If you enter a guilty plea, you will be given up your right to a trial and your right to remain silent. I will ask you questions about what happened to establish what is called a factual basis, and other questions to satisfy myself that you are knowingly and voluntarily given up your right to a trial, that you are guilty of the charges, and that you have knowingly and intelligently decided to proceed without an attorney. That is, if you are not represented by an attorney. You may offer an explanation that you think is important to your case, which may affect the sentence that imposed, but will not affect your guilty plea. If you plead not guilty, then you do have the right to have a trial where you or your attorney may call or subpoena witnesses on your behalf, and you may testify or make statements if you choose to do so. If you have a trial, I will explain the trial procedure to you before the trial begins. This court has jurisdiction over traffic offenses that occur in this municipality, along with offenses called disorderly persons offenses, punishable by 6 months in jail and up to a $1,000 fine, and petty disorderly persons offenses, punishable up to 30 days in jail and up to a $500 fine. Certain drug-related offenses carry additional mandatory penalties and a possible loss of your driving privileges for up to 2 years. Domestic violence-related offenses also carry additional mandatory penalties and a weapons preclusion. Now, any of you who do possess a commercial driver's license, the Motor Vehicle Commission may suspend your commercial driving privileges even though your offense involved your personal license or your personal vehicle. So you may want to consult with an attorney before proceeding if you have a commercial driver's license. Plea bargaining is permitted by the New Jersey Supreme Court in most cases, except certain drug-related offenses. That means, except in those cases, you or your attorney may speak to the prosecutor about how your case may be resolved. A plea agreement may result in an amendment of your charge to a less serious offense, a dismissal or merger of some charges, or a specific fine, jail term, or other sentence recommended by the prosecutor. The prosecutor will generally consult with the officer who has issued a summons or complaint, any victims, and may review criminal history in connection with any plea agreement. You should know that if you plead guilty to or found guilty of a charge that could have been paid through the mail or online or through the Violations Bureau, the court is not bound to impose the same fine and costs as you would have originally paid. Instead, the court may impose the maximum fine or costs allowed by statute, or it could be the minimum fine. But if I find that you have acted in a willful manner, I have the authority under the law to suspend your driver's license in addition to imposing fees and costs. Now, in addition to any penalties that I may impose in court for motor vehicle convictions, additional penalties may be assessed by the Motor Vehicle Commission, such as points for moving violations, surcharges for certain types of convictions, or the Motor Vehicle Commission may suspend your driver's license. The court is not part of motor vehicle, but it is linked to the Motor Vehicle Commission via computer, so any convictions from this court are reported to the Motor Vehicle Commissions upon data entry. If you are an out-of-state driver, the New Jersey Motor Vehicle Commission may report any conviction to your home state, which may impact your driving privileges in that state. If anybody is here for a parking ticket and you want to contest your parking ticket, just understand that there are only 3 things the state needs to prove in this case: that an appropriate parking offense was detailed on your summons, it is sufficiently identifies the vehicle involved, and that the vehicle, according to the Motor Vehicle Commission, was owned or registered by you on the date of the offense. So even if someone else was driving your vehicle, you are the one responsible, and you can go after your friend or family member who is driving your vehicle for the payment, but that's all that needs to be proved for a traffic offense if you are contesting it. At the time of your guilty plea today or on any other court date, financial obligations are expected to be paid in full. However, if you cannot pay in full, you may pay in installments or seek other relief from the court, and I will discuss with each individual if a time payment plan is requested. Everybody here has 20 days in which to file an appeal if you are not satisfied with any decision or sentence of this court. Your appeal will be heard in the Superior Court, and in most cases, the Superior Court judge decides the case based upon the record that we are making here in court, and an appeal packet is available in the court office. Neither the parties nor the court may extend the time for filing of your appeal. Now, if you are not a United States citizen and you plead guilty to or are convicted of certain offenses heard here in the municipal court, including certain motor vehicle offenses, it may result in you being deported from the United States, or it may prevent you from being readmitted to the United States if you leave voluntarily, or it may prevent you from ever becoming a naturalized American citizen. So everybody here does have the right to seek an advice from an attorney about the guilty plea will have on your immigration status. There's also a program called the Veterans Assistance Project, which exists to provide veterans with referrals to community-based resources for services related to housing, mental health counseling, substance abuse treatment, financial aid, legal service, education, and veterans benefits, including possibly mentoring by another veteran. And the court staff can provide you with a brochure describing the program and an application and can assist you with completing the application upon request. If anybody here believes they have a conflict of interest with myself, the prosecutor, the public defender, or any court staff, please let me know, and I'll decide if the case needs to be moved to another court. Everybody here, I want to make sure they understand the process and feel comfortable moving forward. If you are representing yourself, I can't give you any legal advice. Of course, that is the job of an attorney, but if you have any questions with procedure or anything else, I'll be glad to help. I want everybody to make sure they're comfortable and understand how the court proceeds, but again, I can't give any legal advice. So now that the opening statement is concluded, I'll start to call the list in order. If you have any questions when I call your name, let me know, and if you can't unmute when I call your name, just unmute in between cases and then state your name and I'll take your case.